All right, so Virginia McClain here again with Chapter 4 from Victoria Marmot and the Meddling Goddess. When last we left our hero, she had just met Seamus, and they were staring awkwardly at each other in the hallway. So, here we go. Chapter 4. I'm sorry about that, Seamus mumbled. What? I asked, no longer sure that we were both speaking English. Saying you smell good, that's creepy as hell. It's just true? I nodded. Okay, as long as you acknowledge it's creepy and don't expect me to be flattered or anything. Gods, no! I never said it before I could think. I'm sorry. I've never said anything that weird before. I mean, not since I was like 5. Right, okay, you can stop apologizing now. He nodded. I tried to take a deep, calming breath and then realized that he smelled amazing. Like a pine forest and a mountain breeze and gingerbread with chocolate sauce? What the hell? I shook myself and looked pointedly towards the hallway that I thought we should be walking down instead of standing awkwardly in front of Mr. Bumblebee's door. Seamus finally caught on and gestured towards the hallway with one hand while standing well back from me. Shall we? He asked. Sure. I gave him the same wide berth he'd given me. The man smelled better than anyone I'd ever met, and sent sparks shooting up my arm when we touched. Did not need more of that right now. So, where are you from? Seamus asked, as we wandered yet another bland institutional hallway lined with lockers. Honestly, this school was so drab it could have been any public high school in the U.S. How it managed to hide within its walls a cadre of teachers, seemingly all hailing from the UK, piloted by an oddball hotboxing principal, was a mystery that would have fully enveloped my attention had I not been distracted by Seamus's attempts at conversation. What makes you think I'm not from here? I asked, before I could stop my typical knee-jerk response to the question. Well, you're new here, and you're a senior. I just assumed you moved here from somewhere else. I took a deep breath and tried to remember that not everyone who saw my skin tone and eye shape assumed I was from a different country. It was hard, because I got that a lot. Sorry, I'm not having the best day. Colorado, I suppose? You're not sure? Well, before Colorado, we moved once or twice, and I spent most of my summers on a boat until recently. Well, that sounds interesting. Want to talk about it? I chuckled. Seamus set me at ease for some reason. Despite the annoying electric buzz I'd gotten when we first shook hands and the weird smell comment, he didn't seem demanding. I'd love to, but I suppose we should wait until after class? I nodded towards the closed doors that were labeled with the number that corresponded to the folded-over schedule I had wrestled out of my pocket on the walk here. Oh, yeah, probably. Though I wonder sometimes if he'd even notice if we all left the room. Huh? You'll see. Come on. He pushed open the door and we shuffled in, just ahead of a handful of other students who had arrived from the opposite direction. I followed Seamus to a low table in the back of the room. The tables were set up in rows, with one aisle down the middle and 3 chairs per table. The room was drearily devoid of decoration, save for a lone poster from the Dead Poets Society. It seemed as though our class wasn't full, as no one tried to sit with us, and there was also plenty of room to spare at other desks. I usually preferred to sit up front for my classes, but today apparently wasn't my day for it. After class got started, I understood Seamus's seating choice perfectly. The teacher, a balding man without a single memorable feature, started by reading some truly terrible poetry, and continued by reading more of it. No one asked a single question, and indeed the man just paced the front of the room, reading aloud from his book without even looking at a single student. Despite my best efforts to pay attention, around the 7th poorly rhymed verse about a whale frolicking somewhere in Scotland, I gave up. Besides, Seamus's notes were too distracting, mostly because they consisted of hilarious sketches about whatever oddity Topaz was describing in poem form. A whale being harpooned, a royal carriage, a collapsed bridge. It was hard not to laugh aloud when he finally handed me a sketch of a blundering stick figure holding a goose. This is truly terrible poetry, I wrote in reply. Does he seriously do this in every class? Seamus wrote back, I think so. I mean, last year I only had him for a week as a sub, but this was all he did. I was amazed. Still, it wasn't long before we abandoned the topic of Topaz's terrible poetry. Is Vic short for Victoria? Seamus asked via paper. Yep. Not sure why my parents went full-on boring cat lady when they named me, but that's my legacy. I watched Seamus smile while reading my reply and swallowed hard. I was doing my best to think of him in purely friendly terms, but my body kept reacting to him in a really emphatic way. Not sure what my parents were thinking when they named me Seamus, TBH, he replied. I raised an eyebrow at that. I just assumed you were part Irish. That was a lie. I hadn't assumed that at all. He didn't look even remotely Irish, but now that I thought about it, it seemed plausible enough. Good guess. I am, actually, but I'm mostly Navajo, and I'm still bummed that I didn't get a much cooler name than Seamus. Seamus sounds pretty cool to me. Yeah, until you realize it's just Irish for James. Huh. Do you have a nickname you prefer? Nah, I'd just stick with Seamus. How about you? He asked. At this point, we weren't even pretending not to pass notes. We were just both hunkered over my notebook right in the middle of the table. I already told you to call me Vic. No, I mean heritage-wise. The Navajo is pretty obvious, but I just admitted to being part Irish. I was wondering what awesomeness produced those eyes. I could feel the blood rushing to my cheeks as I read the comment about my eyes. Part of me wanted to hurl at my own reaction. It was just a compliment, but whatever. I was touchy about my eyes. Having someone appreciate them was nice. It made me blush. Honestly, I don't know that my heritage does much to explain my eye color, but since you admitted to being Irish, just Tibetan on my mom's side. And Dad's is more of a mystery. He never talked about his family much. If I had to guess, based on what he did say, Euromut and African? Not the entire continent, obviously, but I seriously have no idea which region or country. Seamus had just started penning his reply when the door to the classroom flew open and slammed against the wall, loud enough to actually cause Mr. Topaz to pause in his reading. Edic stood in the doorway, and I watched with growing dismay as his eyes scanned the tables until they reached the one where Seamus and I were sitting. Before I could blink, Edic was standing in front of me and glaring at Seamus. What are you doing sitting next to him? Listening to terrible poetry? What the seven hells are you doing here? I felt safe making the terrible poetry comment because as soon as Edic had left the doorway, Mr. Topaz had started up again without the slightest indication that he objected to Edic's batshit crazy entrance. Victoria, darling, you cannot possibly entertain this mongrel. He's absolutely beneath you. Edic, seriously, what are you doing here? I'm in the middle of class. I came to tell you the truth. Your scent is so compelling that I cannot keep it to myself any longer. I really didn't want to know where this was going. Edic, you need to leave now. Keep whatever it is to yourself and just go, please. I cannot. I must tell you. It is a truth I cannot keep from you. We are meant to be. I am a creature of the night, and I love you. That is the end of chapter 4, and I apologize for a lot of background noise. You may have heard things such as my daughter talking to her father and my dog horking up mystery item. So, sorry if you could hear all that. Also, I stumbled over a couple passages in this chapter. But, I'm not going to re-record this because I don't have the energy today. But hopefully it was close enough to good that you guys will accept it. And I will try to do better for chapter 5 tomorrow. That's it. Chapters 3 and 4 should now be up once you reach this point. This is the end of chapter 4, and tomorrow I'll be back with chapter 5. I hope that everyone's self-isolation / social distancing / enforced quarantine or lockdown, depending on where you are and who's enforcing it, is going well. And I hope that you're okay. And I hope you're finding reasons to smile. And maybe this is one of them. Take care.